princesses! Today I'm going to be talking about the Peripera Cloud Ink Velvets. I have previously tried out the Peripera Ink Velvet line as well as all of the Airy Ink Velvet line too, and I quite liked them. So I was really interested when Peripera came out with a Cloud Ink Velvet line because what's the difference between a Cloud Ink and an Airy Ink? Like surely both Cloud and Airy have the same sort of qualities. So I was interested enough that I decided to grab the full starter range. So there are 5 shades in the range, which is pretty usual from Peripera. They'll usually bring out 5 shades and then add like seasonal colours after that. So at the end of this video as well, I'm going to be showing you the difference between the Cloud Ink, the Ink Velvet and the Airy Ink Velvet with all of the red shades. So if you would like to see the difference between all 3 of those, then you'll have to watch till the end. So the product description says, soft cloud powder gel wraps the lips comfortably. Cloud color film keeps lips light and soft. Natural ingredients tend the lips with moisture. These tints come housed in the standard Peripera shaped packaging. These tints do have different wands to the normal velvet tints. These wands are straight and pick up quite a lot of tint, which makes them a little bit difficult to apply. There are 5 shades in the range, which is standard for Peripera, though they may add more shades to the collection later. I am a little bit disappointed in the initial shade range. I just don't think that it's very interesting, and I find that the 2 red shades look almost identical on me. Premium Red is a nice mid-toned red shade. This shade is nice and bright. I find it quite a cheerful shade. I prefer this red over the other red, Reddish Rose, because it is a little bit easier to work with. This shade is slightly cooler in tone, and because it's bright, I don't need to layer on quite as much to get full opacity. I get a fair bit of wear out of this shade, but I don't think it's a special shade. Heart Red Orange is a pretty red-toned orange. The classic K-Beauty orange shade. I'm not a fan of orange on my skin tone, and up close this shade looks like the bright carrot orange that I would usually give away in a second. But from a distance it does appear to be more of a red shade. I don't hate it, but as usual it's not a shade that I really reach for. I do find that these tints can get quite streaky. The wands just pick up so much of the product that it is hard to apply evenly, especially if you're reapplying it after a little bit of wear. Pure Apricot Coral is neither apricot coloured nor coral, but more of a rosy beige shade. This shade and I share a love-hate relationship. If I apply a super sheer layer of this colour, I get the shade that is advertised and what you see here. If I apply a generous layer, or if I'm having streaky issues that I can't get it sheer enough, it looks more like the arm swatch, which is really dark and kind of more like a warm toned nude. I don't love the darker colour on my skin tone, but I find it very difficult to maintain the sheerer application throughout the day. I find that these tints have very average longevity on me at around about 2 hours before my lips start to feel dry and about 3 hours before the colour starts to fade from the centre of my lips. Pretty Fuchsia is a vibrant, cool-toned pink. This is the shade that I thought I would like the most, but I don't really think that it suits me that well at all. It's quite a cool-toned or purple-based pink, and it is the most vibrant shade in the range. These tints dry down to a satin matte finish. They aren't smudge-proof in the slightest and will transfer onto most things if my lips touch them. I find the finish similar to the Ink Velvet line, though I find that the Airy Ink Velvets do dry down more. Reddish Rose is a muted red shade. This is the shade that I was most excited about and equally disappointed in. This shade is supposed to look completely different to Premium Red. It should be a very deep, almost burgundy red. I don't love this shade. It's very muted and slightly dusty toned. That looks fine on my skin tone, but it just doesn't excite me at all, and it's honestly so similar to Premium Red. So for the comparison, I wanted to just grab the reds because those are probably the easiest comparisons. So I have number 15 out of the regular ink line. I have number 1 from the Airy Ink and number 1 from the Cloud Ink. So I'm just going to swatch them on the back of my hands. This is the regular velvet. It's quite a thick texture, but it is very pigmented. They do have the different wands, so this one has the doe foot applicator that is slightly curved rather than being completely straight. In general, I find that the Velvet line has a very soft matte finish, but it does have a little bit of slip to it, which I find that the Cloud Velvets do not. So they are easier to apply and better on dry lips because they're more likely to go over the bumps and the wrinkles rather than stick to them. Next, I'm going to show you number 1 from the Airy Velvet collection, which is again just a red. So this one has a completely different texture to the two. It's really light. It's a lot more sheer, which you can definitely see in comparison. So I can build these ones up, and it has a very slippery, almost silicone-like texture. So you can see the difference in opacity, and I'll show you guys close up afterwards, of course. And then that's the difference in the applicator. So you can see that this one is straight. This is number 1 Premium Red from the Cloud Ink line, and it is much thicker than the other 2 formulas, and it's a little bit more difficult to spread. It also looks a little bit more matte. So this is what they look like in comparison. That is the Ink Velvet. It's a little bit shinier than the other 2. This is the Cloud Velvet. It's much sheerer in texture, much more slippery, and it is a little bit more matte. And then that is the Cloud Ink Velvet, which you can see is more of a satin matte finish in comparison to the other 2. This one does look a little bit shiny, so you can see the shine there, and then that's quite matte. It has a thicker formula, but it also looks quite streaky, so you can see the streakiness there as well, because the wand actually picks up so much of the product. You can see that and because it's flat as well, it is harder to apply. So for the 3 formulas that I have in the ink collection, the Airy Ink ones I would recommend if you have quite dry lips, because of the silicone-esque texture is going to glide right over any lumps or bumps, but they do have obviously a sheerer texture for them. The regular ink I think is better. Again, still quite good for dry lips because it does have a nice moist texture. None of them really dry down to a matte or smudge proof finish, but the regular ink does have that sort of like shine to it in comparison to the other ones. And the Cloud Ink, I find them to be quite streaky and hard to apply, and they do have a more matte finish. I also find them drying from my lips, and they don't last as long as the other 2. So if you're looking between the 3 velvets and getting a little bit confused, I hope that clears up some of it. Yeah. So for the Cloud Ink Velvet line, I am usually a fan of Peripera products, but I didn't find that this collection really wowed me. I found that the colours were a little bit bland, and in general, Peripera is probably one of the worst companies for their promotion photos. Most of the time they don't look anything like what they're advertised to be. I was especially disappointed with Reddish Rose in this instance, because I'll put a picture of it here, and then I'll put a picture of what I have here, and they are completely different. Like they're not even similar. And then if I look at Premium Red and then Reddish Rose, they should be different, but they're not. I also find that Peripera photoshops the texture off of their products, so not only are they not accurately representing the colours that you're getting, you can't even see the texture of the product because it's just like they've gotten the smooth filter and gone smoothed it all out. Beautiful. So if you're looking for something that's really matte or really shiny, a lot of the time you won't be able to see the difference, and I bet that if you picked up the promo photos for all 3 of these ones, they probably wouldn't look like the textural differences that you see here. Which annoys me so much because I don't know how they mess up the colours so badly. Like, I know that if you apply them sheerly you get a different colour. So this is number 3, which is Pure Apricot Coral, and this is a really sheer application of it. My lips are starting to feel really dry, and it's only been, what, maybe an hour? But if I layer on a bunch more, it's a different colour, and that's also quite weird for me. It's so much darker, whereas a lot of the time if you apply a colour sheerly in other formulations, even if you apply more of it, it's still the same colour. I don't know, I don't like this on me at all. I think this colour looks like almost almost orange. It's really bizarre. I'm gonna blot it off. I don't like it. But enough of my rambling. I think that the cloud line is nice. If you like a satin matte finish in comparison to a more glossy finish that the other ink velvets provide, then this is probably a better line for you. I think that the wands make it a little bit difficult to apply. I wish that they stuck with the curved doe foot applicator because the straight wand picks up so much product on both sides of the applicator. It makes it really hard to apply, and I wish that the colours were more exciting. You have the fuchsia, which is definitely interesting, but for me it didn't look good. You have the two reds, which look almost identical on me. The apricot coral, which sometimes I like and sometimes I don't, and I feel like I'm constantly fighting with it. And then the orange, which, like, I never like oranges, so I was kind of like very meh about the whole color range. However, they may bring out more colors and I may absolutely love them. That's the thing with Peripera. They do really beautiful seasonal colors. Sometimes they are definitely up my alley and sometimes they are not, but that's okay because not everybody wants to look exactly like me and wear the same shades as me. It's called a personal preference, and it's okay if your personal preference is different. So if you like the color range that they have for these ones and you like a more matte formula, definitely pick them up and give them a go because they do come in the really cute, very classic Peripera packaging. I have so many tints of theirs at the moment, it is crazy. But thank you guys so much for watching this review. I'm sorry that it got a little bit rambly towards the end there. I don't know if I will cut most of that out or not because I've now got 15 minutes of review footage and that's a little bit long. But thank you guys so much for watching this review and I will see you next time. Bye!